What's up, guys? Jeremy Conn here. It's the Lowdown. It's all brought to you by Pickdawgz.com. Make sure you're checking out the website. Click the like and subscribe button. That helps us out. And as I always say, click the notification button. It'll let you know every time one of these is posted. I do think it's important to click the notification button because if you like listening to this, I am going to take a hiatus after next Monday. So you won't see anything popping up unless somebody fills in for me, which I'm still figuring out what's going to happen there. But as soon as I can talk, I'll be back. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff to kind of get into here real quick. I told you I was at that kickball tournament yesterday, or I guess Sunday. I always get the days confused because I'm doing this earlier. I record these a day early, so if I try to update stuff and go back, I update whatever my weather algorithm spits out. Even if I'm on every one of those games, I send it to you so you guys can do with that what you will. They're all bumps to bats or pitchers, depending on which way it's leaning. And Monday was one of those days where the Orioles game jumped off the charts. The A's game was ridiculous. I had 6 or 7 batters in my top 20 hitters in my algorithm for those guys to get over 2 bases. So it's just telling you how much they love the bats in the game and seeing the pitchers ranked lower down on the list, even Castillo to a degree, as he struggled against the A's here in his last 3 starts. But they were good spots. St. Louis, Miami was a good hitting spot. What else stood out? Atlanta and KC, old Rich Hill there and on the mound, and it liked the Kansas City bats a little bit against Strider, who scuffled some. He hasn't quite looked like himself yet. But yeah, so interesting enough. But that kickball tournament I played in, I ended up getting heat exhaustion, which I never have had anything like that in my life. So we're playing, everything's going fine. I think I was 5 for 6, should have been 6 for 6. I hit a single up the middle, and somebody got thrown out at second base. Had a great game. I even had, you're not going to believe this, my fat ass, but Ellie De La Cruz moment. Ball was popped up to first base, and the guy was backing up, and I already planned a tag to go to third. And once I saw the throw coming into third, I just rounded third and kept running. So I tagged up from second base and scored a run. Our game ended. We won 2 games, and I'm sitting over there, and I'm like, I've never left an athletic event in the middle of it, from an injury, from anything. I would just continue playing through the game. And I'm not saying I'm tough. It's stupid because it's the reason why I can't play sports now, including throwing out my back in a playoff game in basketball. And we only had 5 guys, and I refused to leave the floor. So I just hobbled up and down the floor for an hour, to which when I finally drove home after said game, we lost. We actually played the number 1 team in our league tough with only 5 guys or 4 guys in my broke ass. My wife literally had to pull me out of my car. I couldn't get out of the car. So that's when I started to realize, like, hey, this is probably coming to an end. You got a bad back, a bad neck, and everything else is falling apart. But with heat exhaustion, I just looked over and said, I don't feel right, man. Like, I can't catch my breath. I sat there for a half an hour, and I'm like, the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden my stomach started to turn, and I'm looking, I said, I think I'm going to get sick. And when I throw up, it's violent. It sounds like a goose being molested, I guess is the easiest way to, I don't even know if that makes sense, but it's violent. I've actually torn stomach muscles or, strained them, it's also a tear, throwing up after food poisoning. So I don't think anybody likes to throw up. I despise it. So I always try to stay away from it. But started yakking in front of everybody. They brought out the golf cart and had to take me to my car. Sat in my AC for a bit, and then finally on the drive home had to pull over 3 times and yak. Feeling better now. I mean, my body hurts like hell from just playing 2 games of kickball. My team made the playoffs, and I guess they lost in the semifinals or championship. But yeah, it was an interesting day for me yesterday, where I was looking to have a good time and I ended up spending most of the day on the couch watching baseball. And baseball wasn't kind to me over the weekend. We had so many great hitting spots, it just didn't come through. Sometimes the bats we had base runners in a lot of these games, and they just couldn't get them home. That Cincinnati-Tampa Bay series, I was on the over in all 3 games, and all 3 games went under. And it was something I discussed before. I don't remember if it was on one of the live shows or if it was on a podcast. Like, sometimes you get into those spots where it's like, all right, so I've bet the over in a great hitting situation on Friday and Saturday, and neither one of them worked out. Do I go back to the well on Sunday if I think it's a great spot? For me, it's almost always yes. I'm not going to fade what I'm seeing, because inevitably what happens is you skip that game, and that's the one that wins. And, it could have helped make up some of your losses. Or you do what I did, you bet on it and it loses, and then all of a sudden you've lost all 3 games. Really pissed off at a few of those games. We had I think the Red Sox and Dodgers over the weekend at one point scored 5 runs in the first 3 innings. Maybe that was Friday night, and then came out and scored 2 the rest of the way. The Orioles, they had 5 runs early and then just coasted. I talked about my Trevor Rogers prop bet. Had him over 5.5 Ks. He had 5 strikeouts at the end of the third against the biggest strikeout team in all of baseball, and he went 7 innings and had 5 strikeouts at the end of 7. So I got the good old "how's your father doing" there on Saturday. But I think I talked about that the other day. It's frustrating, but this is what we do. We look at these games, we go through everything. I was telling the guys on the morning show that the only saving grace for me this weekend is that from Thursday to Sunday, I usually talk about this. Sometimes I don't do it here because I don't have enough time to look at the home run matchups and my algorithm that I use and I run on a daily basis. But I try to find the best spots where I like high-scoring games and I like bats. I think I called 13 of 25 home runs or something like that over the past 5 days, which it's nice, but when you're going 1 for 4 in your top 5 and 2 for 3, it's just not going to cut it or get it done. So, yeah, very disappointing this weekend, but this is why we grind every day, because today's a perfect time to bounce back, and there's a ton of great hitting options. There's one thing I'm going to tell you about and that I like to attack, and we'll get to it. So I'm going to run through these games really quick, and we'll go from there. Let's start it off with the D-backs at the Tigers. It's Brandon Pfaadt, one of my favorite names to say. Brandon Pfaadt versus Casey Mize. A little bit of rain in the forecast. It is 90 degrees there. The wind's blowing in slightly. Nothing major to that standpoint. But I'm going to take the under here. I like the way Casey Mize is pitched, especially at home. Brandon Pfaadt's one of those guys that when he's bad, he's really bad. But I don't think he's had that one start this year where he just got annihilated and didn't get anybody out that made his numbers look chunky. And he's been battling back, trying to get that number down. He did for a while and then had another bad start. But I like him against this Tigers lineup. So I think the under is a very solid play here. That would be my first lean. Second game, we're going to a dome. We're going to talk about Cubs and Brewers. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is Colin Ray, former Brewer. Again, this was a guy that I would target all the time. I would overs or taking the other team because he was trash. He started to figure it out a little bit this year. He gets ground balls quite a bit, gets some soft contact. He's going up against his former team. So that interests me a little bit. And I think Quinn Priester's been solid. I don't think the kid's spectacular or anything. He's still young. He'll figure it out. But I like what I've seen thus far. And the Brewers, by the way, if you go back and start looking at what the Brewers have done as far as drafting pitchers, from Corbin Burns, the Brandon Woodruff, to Freddie Peralta, I mean, you can even go back further and start looking at some guys. They've done a very, very nice job. Maybe this is another find for them in Quinn Priester. I think the under looks like a good play here. That's where I would lean. Now, the third game, Pirates at the Giants. And the reason I want to bring this up, and I talk about it all the time, and if you're just tuning in, Wrigley Field, most affected by wind, 10 miles an hour out there is like 20 miles an hour out. Conversely, when you look at the Giants Stadium at Oracle Park, it is 10 mile an hour winds out. You can cut that thing in half. So unless it's 20 mile an hour winds or higher, it's not as much of a bump. Of course, it is a bump anytime the wind's blowing out. It's just not what people think it is. And so I wanted to bring that up. But it's Bailey Falter versus Justin Verlander, who picked up his first win. Wind is out at 10 miles an hour. Again, not what it seems. It's 57 degrees in San Francisco at the end of July. As I've said this before, that San Francisco's weather is drunk, and these have been great under spots because I think a lot of people go and look, oh, the wind's blowing out, and you don't check that it's in the 50s, which is definitely going to help the pitchers out. I think this is an underplay, and God forbid, I'm looking at it, and I call it a vomit play. Like the other day, I had Tyler O'Neill over 1.5 bases on Sunday, and I thought he was going to homer. And I said, am I sick for even suggesting this? And sure enough, he had another great game. But, yeah, sometimes you got to click that vomit button right there. That's the vomit play. And Bailey Falter's been excellent this year. I've said this before. I like lefties against the Giants more so than righties. I don't dislike either, but I think Falter's been fine. And when you look at Justin Verlander, it said picking up his first win, he's still got a whip around 1.5. I mean, it's chunky. And the thing with Verlander is, and even in these spots where I think it's going to be more difficult to hit home runs, if you get nickel and dimed, it doesn't matter. Like I've been on Wrigley games where the under is just, it looks like a chef's kiss, right? Like it's just the best spot on the board, or the over, either way. But I just want to point out an under. And here's the total sitting at 6.5 or 7. And first inning comes up, and here's a walk. Duck snort to right field, another walk, a duck snort, a hit off the end of the bat going over the second baseman or shortstop, third baseman's head. And then before you know it, here comes another walk. Oh, he walked in a run. Now he gave up another single, 2 more runs scored. So that's what I mean when I say nickel and dimed, because the long ball is the easiest way to put some numbers on the board. But we have a lot of teams that can do that. Plus stolen bases. You look at some of those teams. This is a spot where, I don't know, I think the under just looks really good out in the Giants, out in San Francisco, I should say. Now, I was trying to find the spot because I wrote this down as game 2, but this is something, we talked about it on the morning show on Monday. If you didn't watch, Jay talked about he was taking the White Sox over the Phillies as the White Sox were like plus 180. And he was saying why, talking about Christopher Sanchez throwing his, was a no-hitter, complete game, whatever it was, and that he was going to target him. And if you guys have heard me talk about this, yes, I absolutely do that too. I target him. Nick Lodolo just threw a no-hitter. Anytime a pitcher does something out of the ordinary, and by the way, complete games nowadays are out of the ordinary. No-hitters and perfect games out of the ordinary. And sometimes in said game, you'll see the pitcher throw 120 pitches, or, they're going to let him try to get it, even though their minds are telling them, no, we don't want him to pitch, but we can't take him out. He's got a chance at a no-hitter unless it gets ridiculous. So that stuff out of the ordinary and coming back the next game, those are guys I like to target. I pointed out this year, like Brian Wu, he almost had that perfect game against the Yankees. It got broken up in the 8th inning, I believe. And then the next start he comes out, he gets annihilated. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I definitely want to target Nick Lodolo here. Dodgers at the Reds. It is Tyler Glasnow versus Nick Lodolo. It's 100 degrees and humid in Cincinnati. I've talked about this. I don't know what the spread is, or I should say the money line is on this game. If the Dodgers are like $1.50, $1.60, I think I'm taking them. I might end up taking both sides of this, but I like the over. My free play is going to be on the over. But I think the Dodgers are an interesting bet as well. And this might be one of those games where I throw together one of those same game parlays. I know it's like Dinger Tuesday on some sites and you get boosts and things like that. I like to throw those lottery tickets together, and this might be one of those games where I pick a couple of Dodgers out. I'll throw a couple of Reds in there too. It's not like Tyler Glasnow can't get hit as he was coming off the IL. And, yeah, he'll get his strikeouts, but he can give up the long ball as well. It's 100 degrees. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I think the over is a very, very solid play. All right, so it's the end of this. We'll be back tomorrow with another podcast. Don't forget to check out all the premium plays over at Pickdawgz.com. Really appreciate you guys watching. I'll be back in the morning to post what the weather algorithm results say, regardless if it conflicts any of this stuff. So I hope you guys win some cash. I'll see you tomorrow.